Alright guys, it's 2014, it's a brand new year for movies, and this is my first movie review of 2014. It's pretty special. And what movie did I decide to go see in the theaters today? It's a horror movie. It's a fifth film in this film's franchise. It's also January, might I remind you, and this movie is found footage. That's not good. Hey there guys, what's up? It's all about Mike18 here with another movie review. Guys, in this video I will be reviewing the much highly anticipated film. I know you guys were craving to go see this movie. I'm being sarcastic, of course. I will be reviewing Paranormal Activity, The Marked Ones. So guys, Paranormal Activity, The Marked Ones, instead of coming out in October like they usually do, we're getting a Paranormal Activity movie in January, which is never a good sign because we usually get all of the crappiest, shittiest movies in January, and that's why I really don't go to the movies a lot in January. Like last year I really didn't go a lot, and this year I'm really not going to go that much either and see the new 2014 movies because they're bad. They're just not that good at all. So having a Paranormal Activity movie come out in January is never a good sign. Nevertheless, I was looking forward to this movie, and I did go to see this new film, this new Paranormal Activity, because I like this franchise. Now, don't kill me in the comments. Please don't rip me apart because I'm a fan of this franchise. Let me get something straight with you guys. I am not a die-hard fan of this franchise or anything like that. It's not my favorite horror franchise out there. I like these movies. I consider them to be guilty pleasures of mine. We all have guilty pleasures when it comes to watching movies. These are my horror movie guilty pleasures, okay? I'm going to be honest. I have horror movie guilty pleasures, and it's the Paranormal Activity movies. And you know what? It comes down to this. You either love these movies, you either love found footage, or you either hate them, or you hate found footage. If you don't like found footage, then don't even bother watching this review, because if you don't like these movies, then you're not going to like this one. It's more or less the same thing. Nevertheless, Paranormal Activity and the Marked Ones, is it really good? Is it groundbreaking in this franchise? No. Is it enjoyable? Yes. Is it a bad movie? In my opinion, no, it's not. In your guys' opinions, you're going to differ. Your opinions will differ, and I understand that because you don't like these movies. That's fine. I'm a fan of them. However, was this a weak entry in the franchise? Had its good moments, had its bad moments. Nevertheless, I'll get into them at the end of the review. Right now, guys, I would like to start talking about the story of Paranormal Activity, The Marked Ones. Now, this is the fifth film in the franchise, yet it's called The Marked Ones and not Paranormal Activity 5. Paranormal Activity 5, they're actually giving us another one of these movies in October, this October, and it's called Paranormal Activity 5, yet it's the sixth film in the franchise, which makes no sense to me, because this movie isn't like a rip-off or like a spin-off or something like that. It is another film in this franchise. It does connect with the stories of the first four, so this should have been called Paranormal Activity 5, or just Paranormal Activity and the Marked Ones, and the new Paranormal Activity movie that's coming out should be called Paranormal Activity 6, if that even makes sense, if you guys are still following me. So anyway, the events in this film are told through the eyes of a new character in the franchise. This young kid just graduated high school. His name is Jesse, not Jesse Pinkman, but just Jesse. I don't know his last name. And he just graduated high school, and he lives in a different part of California than, Katie and Mika did from the first few movies, and the other characters did. He lives in a different part of California. And, of course, as soon as he graduates high school, creepy things start happening. Paranormal Activity is unfolding, and he's got this really creepy neighbor. However, they added something new to this character, I should say. The main character of this movie, Jesse, he starts to experience these supernatural abilities at some point in the film. It's starting to freak him out, and it involves the fact that he had interactions with his neighbor, who's really creepy, and there's something deeper going on. Obviously, we're still trying to figure out why there are all these witches that we saw in the end of Paranormal Activity 4, those old women in that coven, in the end of Paranormal Activity 4. So this movie, that's basically the overall plot. I really don't want to spoil anything for this movie. But that's basically the overall plot, the overall story of what's going on in this movie. And it does connect to the first four, guys. I'm going to be honest. It does. The story is more so a continuation of the fourth film. It relates directly to the first three movies. It really does. It has references to the first three movies, so it is another film in this franchise. It is technically the fifth movie. And the thing that I liked about Paranormal Activity and the Mark ones the most definitely had to be the story writing, because I thought the story writing, this movie was a lot more well written probably than the fourth one was, because the fourth one really, when you look at it now, is just it's just another entry in the franchise. You know, it didn't need to be made. You can argue with this one. This one didn't need to be made either. It's just for the money. But I like this one because of the story, because, you know, you finally see a few other things that are going on with this story, and they're explaining a few other things about this witch coven that I'm not going to get into. So that is one reason why I did like the story. And I will say this much. The movie, the first half was funny. Not in the sense that the movie was so bad. The dialogue was pretty funny. The things that these characters were doing were dumb. Yeah, they were dumb. I acknowledge that. But it was funny. I laughed. I chuckled a few times. Why not? And overall, I liked the story a lot because it tied into those first four, and it explained, it developed the story, the overall story of these demons and these possessions and these witches. It develops that story further, and that's why I liked Paranormal Activity and the Mark ones, for the story. Other than that, the movie has its problems, which I'll get into. Now, I'm not going to really talk about the cast for this movie, guys. Do I really need to? No. I mean, it's a really... You've never seen these actors before. I've never seen these actors before. However, there are a few cameos and a few appearances from the first four movies. You know, actors who've played characters in these films come back in this film, and that's cool. The girl who was in the second one, who played the daughter, who survived the second one, she is in this movie. She comes back for like one scene, and there are two other there are a few other great cameo appearances that I don't want to spoil, but I'm really not going to talk performances in this one. I mean, just the acting, I'll sum up the acting. Is it great? Nothing spectacular. Is it average? Yeah, it's average acting for this kind of movie, so I'm not going to say it's terrible or anything like that. It's not, but there's that. And that's really it. The movie's rated R. They did go a little bit further with like the sexuality and the nudity. There is some nudity in the movie, and this is like the first time they've done that for a Paranormal Activity movie. But other than that, because the scares aren't that strong in this movie, I wouldn't have given this movie an R rating because it just wasn't scary, which I'll get into. There is a lot of language and all that, but I'll get into that. So, Paranormal Activity and the Mark ones, my final rating. What am I going to give this movie? I'm torn. I liked this movie, but I had a lot of problems with it. And I really liked this movie because of the story and how it tied all of these loose ends up. It almost tied all of these loose ends up. We're near a conclusion almost. I feel that they're going to end this franchise soon. However, they might keep making more because these movies make ridiculous amounts of money at the box office. The budget of this movie is $5 million. When you have a movie with a budget of $5 million and you make 18 million on opening weekend, of course you're going to keep getting sequels. So I don't understand. You guys really should expect these every year because they're going to keep making them because they're making this much money. The first film was made for like, I don't know, what was it, $100,000, yet it made millions at the box office. So of course you're going to get sequels, of course, because these are easy money makers. That's why you're going to keep getting Paranormal Activity movies. But anyway, getting back to my rating. I'm so torn. I like the story in this movie, yet the horror part of the movie, the fact that this movie is a horror film, yet it really doesn't scare me, or the scares are cheap, or they just don't work right in this movie. That's why I'm not a fan of it. So as a horror film, I'm gonna give Paranormal Activity and the Mark ones a 7.75 out of 10. It was a little upsetting in the horror aspect of the movie. In terms of its story, it was really good. I was torn between giving this movie a 7.75 or an 8. In the end, I decided to just go 7.75 because is it really worthy of a B grade? As a horror movie, no, not really. So, as I said, the things I liked about this movie, I really liked the story this time around. I think the writing definitely improved over the fourth one, because really when you look at it, the fourth one, you can say that there were plot holes in the fourth one, and I would probably agree with that. A lot of people were very confused with the ending of the fourth one, but I wasn't. I understood what was going on. You really need to pay attention to this franchise. You might have to rewatch the first four if you want to go see this one. You might forget a few things. But anyway, What was I saying about the story? I thought the story tied up, a few questions we had in regards to that witch coven, and it developed the story further. It's giving a reason as to why these paranormal activities are happening, why people are getting possessed. We've known all of this already, but you know what? In the end, it develops the story further, which is what I liked about this movie. And you understand a few things a little bit better, especially about that witch coven and all that crap. So that is one thing I liked about the movie. Also, in terms of the story, the humor in the first half I thought was funny. Was it dumb? Yes, but I laughed. I enjoyed it. I had an enjoyable time. Usually the beginnings of every one of these movies, they start off very, very slow. But this one, it was slow, but it was funny, so it kept me entertained. Well, another thing, the ending of this movie. Wow. Here's the thing with the ending. You're either going to love it or you're going to absolutely hate it for what it does. Because the ending connects to the first four, to one of the first four movies. I'm not going to say which one it does connect to, but I loved it for that reason. However, another part of me hates the ending, and I'm going to explain why in a second. So other than that, I really didn't enjoy anything else with this movie other than the story. The story is what really kept me entertained with this movie, because they definitely went somewhere with the story and they improved upon it. So that's why I liked it. I could say that the camera work was different. They used a few different cameras in this one. They used like the GoPro camera, and they had several cool shots, even though this movie is all found footage. That's another thing. I love found footage, so there you go. And the performances were average. So other than that, problems I had with the movie, this is why I went so low with the rating, because I liked the first four. This one I went low with the rating because, number one reason, the predictable scares. My goodness, I predicted almost every single scare that happened in this movie. There were about 2 or 3 scares I didn't see coming, and of those 3, 2 of them were like jump scares, okay? Other than that, every other jump scare in this movie is predictable as shit. I'm not even going to kid you guys. The scares in this movie are so predictable. You have a character walking into a room, I'm like, oh, he's going to turn around, there's going to be someone behind him. Yep, that exactly happened. And even if that didn't happen, then a second later, he would turn around again, and there you go. So the scares are very predictable in this movie. And above that, the other disappointing thing about the scares, they're not scary. Okay, let's be honest. The scares in this movie are not scary. I mean, I think the franchise is starting to lose its touch of that creepy feeling. Because we've seen this 5 times already, so they're not as scary as they used to be, really. This one really just didn't scare me. It didn't even really creep me out. I jumped twice because of jump scares. That's jump scares. But other than that, I found nothing else to be really creepy in this movie. I'm sorry. A little upset about that. A few other things, the characters in this movie are dumb, as they are in all of these movies, and in all horror movies. There is always a dumb character. And another thing, and this involves the ending. My goodness, I love the ending. I really did, because it tied into the first one, and that's the thing I loved about the story of this movie. It ties in so well to the first 4, in my opinion. It deepens the story, and that's why I like this movie. But the ending, wow, here's my problem with the ending. There's a time error with the ending. Like a character, something happens with time. I don't want to spoil it, but a character does something that ties into one of the first 4 movies, and I'm not going to say why. It left me sitting there. How the hell did that character do that? I was literally sitting there as the movie ended, saying to myself, how did that character do that? There's definitely a problem with the writing. There's a time error in the movie. That's all I'm going to say. With the ending, there's a time error. It didn't make sense to me. It's confusing as hell. It's actually mind-boggling, and I have to go read online about this ending. I got to figure out why this movie ended the way it did, and I just got to go look that up. But other than that, the movie is average. It's not groundbreaking in this franchise. It's more or less the same thing we've been seeing. Yes, they changed the setting. Yes, they got new characters, but other than that, it's really the same thing. So, Paranormal Activity in the Mark ones, I give it a 7.75 out of 10. Here's my my final verdict here. I'm going to split my rating for 2 people. For the kind of people who hate these movies, if you hate these movies, point blank, don't see it. It's more or less the same thing. You're not going to like it. I don't recommend it to anyone who hates this franchise. Don't see 5. It's this. Don't see the marked ones. It's the same thing. To everyone who likes this franchise, I'm going to say this much. You'll enjoy this movie. I don't know if it'll be your favorite. It depends. I would say go see it, but see it on a cheap night or rent it. Don't pay full price for it. It's just really not worth it because of how predictable it is, how predictable the scares are, and how not really scary it is. So it kind of failed as a horror movie, yet I still enjoyed it, and these films are still guilty pleasures for me. So that's Paranormal Activity and the Marked Ones. It's decent. It's not terrible, in my opinion, because I like this franchise. I had things I liked about it, but I had a lot of problems with it. So there you go, guys. That's my review. What did you guys think of Paranormal Activity and the Marked Ones? Let me know down below. Stay tuned for my movie reviews of Her and possibly Lone Survivor. They're going to be coming up next week. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review. Bye, guys.